I've been handling pepper spray since the early 90s. I've watched people haggle over the price of a fresh $10 canister, while the one on their keychain has been sitting there since their kids were in diapers. Most people assume that as long as the safety is on, they have a working tool, but every canister has a functional limit. Manufacturers set an expiration date of 2 to 4 years because they know the chemicals and the hardware have a shelf life. Carrying past that date provides a false sense of security that collapses the moment you face a real threat. Inside the canister, 2 separate points of failure are working against you. The first is the active ingredient, capsaicin. This chart shows the concentration and potency levels of a capsaicin molecule, dropping steadily over a 48-month period. Capsaicin is a food-based product derived from real peppers. Over time, it behaves like any other organic material. It goes stale, steadily losing the heat required to stop an attacker. Even if the formula stayed fresh, you still have to deal with the second failure point, the loss of propellant pressure. It works exactly like a can of spray paint forgotten in a garage. Over the years, the aerosol propellant slowly seeps out around the nozzle until the compression is gone. When you pull the trigger on an expired can, there is no pressure to push the chemicals out. You get a weak, oily drip instead of a high-pressure stream, leaving you completely vulnerable. The environment where we keep these tools accelerates the breakdown. Most canisters spend their lives at the bottom of a bag or tucked inside a center console. That means the hardware is constantly cycling between the extreme heat of a parked car and the sudden cold of the air conditioner. This cross-section shows the internal rubber O-ring seal inside the nozzle. The rubber expands in heat and shrinks in cold. This constant flexing wears the material down. Micro fissures form in the rubber, creating an invisible path for the pressurized gas to escape. This mechanical wear creates a leaking cylinder of wasted plastic before you ever attempt to use it. Once the seals fail, the capsaicin formula starts to sweat through the hardware. You can find this by running your thumb over the outside of the casing. If the plastic feels oily or tacky, the canister is actively leaking. Wash your hands immediately if you feel that residue. I've handled leaking canisters and then touched my face later. The irritation is immediate and intense. Some people try to compensate for age by shaking the canister to build up pressure. If the nozzle only produces a sputtering drip after you shake it, the propellant is dead. In a real emergency, you don't have the time to shake a weapon. If the tool requires physical manipulation to fire, it is already useless. You cannot throw a compromised can into the regular trash. It is a pressurized container filled with hazardous chemicals. The safest option is taking it to a local hazardous materials drop-off facility. If you have to dispose of it yourself, put on thick rubber gloves, go outside away from people and pets, and point the nozzle down and downwind to empty the remaining pressure. This level of caution is necessary because the chemicals inside remain dangerous even after the propellant is gone. Relying on an expired canister in a life or death situation is more dangerous than having nothing at all. It creates a psychological trap. You are more likely to take a risk or stand your ground because you believe you have a safety net. When you pull that tool and get nothing, you suddenly realize you have no defense and no time left to escape. Check your expiration date today. Replacing your gear every 2 years is the only way to ensure the tool actually works when your safety depends on it.
Thank you for watching, folks. To see more, visit selfdefenseproductsllc.com. Thank you for trusting us with your safety.